Go tell it on the mountain. Oh, wait a second. Let me go get comfortable first before I start singing that song. Oh, my God, Brande.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, if I were a psychologist, I would love to sit down with you and say, what were you thinking in putting this gym together?
You know what? I am really demented in the head. And it all started with my childhood. My mother making me watch The Exorcist when I was 6 years old. My dad always trying to scare me at every chance he got. I have so many crazy moments when I was a child where my dad would like lay down on the ground, put toothpaste in his mouth, like from the movie Rabbit. I'd walk down the hallway in the dark. He'd grab my leg. He'd go outside, put a stocking over his head, come in and scare my brother and I after watching a scary movie. Like they did all this kind of crap. And so I just became obviously a lover of horror films.
You do so quite well. And there are so many different layers of this movie because I mean, there's Joe's story, there's Tessa's story because you're living in her past, but I want to believe there's also a third level of this because Joe's the one that sets it up in the way of teaching Walter how to dig deeper because it gets to the roots. So I'm thinking of the grapevines. And then all of a sudden Joe says, or you tell Joe, hey, you're a good winemaker, Joe. Joe comes back and says, I want you to be a part of it. I'm going, oh my God, she's going to become a part of that wine. I mean, there's so much fear in this movie.
So many, yeah, like you don't know what's going to happen. And then you get shocked and different plot twists. And at the end of the movie, you leave the theater going, what the heck? I was not expecting that at all. Holy moly. Yeah.
And you put so much attention on the sound effects. I think the sound effects add to it so much.
Oh, yay. I'm glad you say that because we spent so much time on the sound and wanted it to be perfect from adding, even the sounds of the crows, because there wasn't any bird sounds, crows are so creepy, to, everything. So I'm glad that you noticed that.
Well, even the visuals, because I mean, with the sunrise or like when you first arrive at the winery and stuff, I mean, just the still shots because it grabs your imagination. And even the scene with Walter where, you come across your old teddy bear and you talk about the smell because we've all been there.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That musty, dirty smell of an old, anything old in an old room that's been sitting there for a while.
Yeah. So was it a real winery or was it a set? Because I mean, I totally believe I want to go to this place.
Yeah, no, it's the oldest winery in Southern California called Galliano Winery. And my friend owns it. And although if you go there, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this winery is beautiful. But it lends itself to that 70s chilling atmosphere of a horror film because it was built in the early 1900s. So it's got all the old barns, the old farm equipment, all the old shears hanging on the barn. It's creepy. It looks like it's right out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's all that stuff was real. All the big barrels and the tanks and, the wine press, everything, it's a working winery, but everything, all those old machines and stuff are from like the early 20s.
Well, setting up the scene, the way that it even opened up with the radio disc jockey, and thank you for using an authentic disc jockey on there talking over the song intro, because that's the way it used to be. So her on that highway with that radio cranked up, that to me told me this is the tone of this movie.
Yes, good. That was the goal, talking about, Carter and who the president was at that time, and really wanted to set the stage that this movie was made was supposed to be in the late 1970s. So I'm glad that you caught that right away. That was the goal.
You put a lot of thought into this, Brande, is what you did, because even the texture of the film itself really, to me, I want to go see this at a drive-in. I want to experience this and be scared outside where that sky is above me and that movie's in front of me.
Absolutely. I mean, this definitely, I would love for it to be at a drive-in. We don't have very many left, but that's my goal because I want to watch it in a drive-in. Anything, even the color, afterwards in post, really trying to make that color feel like it was in the late 70s, give you that eerie feel. So yeah, in a drive-in, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, returning back to that step, though, don't you think that you're being like a new age movie maker in the way of bringing this style of terror as well as horror back into films?
I hope so. I mean, for me, I love this era and this genre. So, but then, also we had it with X. That was based in the 70s, and that kind of gave you that feel a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean, I really hope so, because it's nostalgic, right? And it brings you back to that feeling when you were a kid of being scared. So I hope they do bring more back like this.
Well, Tessa's character is very strong. She's also very loving with Walter, because I love the conversation between Tess and Walter when they're driving in the car and he's just finding out about his grandparents. I thought that was very innocent.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you know this or not, but the kid that played my kid is really my kid
really?
in real life.
Oh, my God.
Yes. So that's why I think it was so real and authentic. And I think the relationship was just so easy, because it wasn't really acting, it was like I was just really talking to my kid. So that's why that was, those scenes were the easiest for me, because it was just the most natural.
I could totally see haunted houses grabbing some of this movie and reenacting it. And the reason why is because every time you went into a shed, it went back deeper and deeper and deeper. And I kept going, oh my God, where are you taking me? And how far back can my scream be heard?
Yeah. They have some huge, crazy buildings on this winery. And it was, had some creepy little, twists and turns throughout. So yeah, there's a lot of creepy places to explore. Definitely.
Was the movie treated in the way of, how independent films are? You got to get in there and get out of there in as the fewest amount of days as possible. Because the pacing and everything about this movie told me, no, I think they spent more time than just a normal independent film.
No, we did not.
Oh, wow.
And yes, it was 12 days. And the key is, and I learned this from my writer producer, who is also my directing mentor, Richard Shankman, because he's done a million of these, is that you have to hire actors that are professionals. And I'm so glad I listened to him, because there were times when we were casting and there was somebody that would be like, oh, they're so crazy and creepy, but they were crazy and creepy in real life too. And I was like, oh, they'd be perfect. And Richard's like, Brande, no, you don't want that, because on set, when you're doing an independent film, you have to get it in the first take. And if you have someone that's crazy in real life, it's going to take you 20 million takes. So I was like, oh, and I'm so glad I listened, because we really only had time for one or two takes, because one for safety, right?
Yep.
So we really only had time for two takes. So that's what was really important, is that we hired professional actors that were fantastic, that they show up and they're prepared. And that was really key to get this done in 12 days. So I owe it to them.
How did you develop this relationship with the viewer, knowing they weren't on the set, but you were going to do things in this movie that were you're planting seeds all the way through it? And what I want to do, I want to paint this without spoiling it. The ant. There's something about the ant where something isn't right, and then when it all comes down to the room with the rope, then it happens, and all of a sudden when it happens, it's like, oh my God, I knew it. Now, did you plant that in the very beginning, that it was going to be one of those? Can I say it, or because I'll edit it out if I can?
You can't say it. No.
Okay, good.
That's like the best, that's like the biggest one of, like, we have like 3 big plot twists, right? But that's the one where people are leaving, I want to say leaving the theater, but whatever, leaving the film going, holy shit, I wasn't expecting that.
So true.
And that's what I want. That's like my biggest thing, is I want to shock people. I want them to I want everything to be unexpected, because when I'm watching a movie, the whole time I'm watching a movie, I want to like figure it out, right? I'm like, ooh, who's the killer? And you think you got it. And then if you do get it and you do know who it is, then it's not as fun, right?
Yeah.
You want to be totally shocked and unexpected. I don't like it when I can figure it out. I don't want to figure it out. And that's what I'm hoping people do. I want them to not figure it out, but think they have it figured out.
Well, you are figuring it out, because you're a great storyteller, and I want to know how many people are going to compare you to Rob Zombie, and probably better than Rob Zombie, because you're taking horror and thrill and you're taking it to a different level of play.
Well, thank you. I love that. Well, that's what I'm hoping people take from this, and I want them to to want to share it with everybody they know.
Speaking of sharing, where are people going to find this movie?
They can find it everywhere as of today. Amazon, Apple, iTunes, Google Play, DirecTV, wherever you normally, stream, wherever you rent or purchase films. So, yeah, I'm excited for people to watch it and share it.
Let's talk about the writer, because I too am an author and I love sharing journeys with authors. When this story came to you, did it take over you, or were you just doodling around a little bit and then all of a sudden it consumed you?
It actually started with the location. We had the location, we had me, and we had my son. And I knew I wanted to write a film where a woman will do anything and everything to protect her son. So we went to the location, and Richard and I just came up with this totally creepy, demented story. And we would just go back and forth with each other. We'd each just write stuff going back and forth until we came up with the story. And it just got more twisted and more demented as we went on, because we're both sick in the head. And there was only one scene in particular that Richard came up with that I was really hesitant to do. And he convinced me to do it, because in this movie, I wanted to push the envelope. I wanted to do shocking things that other people haven't done. Mm-hmm. And I think you know which scene that was, but it was with young Joe and Aunt Margaret.
Oh my God. I really, my mouth was wide open. I was like, what?
I know. And he had to really convince me, because I have, young sons. So I was like, oh, I don't know. And, he's like, Brande, you have this other stuff happening with who, with the daughter. Like, why do you care? And I'm like, oh, right. My God. So he finally convinced me, and I'm so glad we did, because it's one of the shocking things that people are like, holy shit, I can't believe she went there.
Oh, and Brande, with the father, those were such brutal scenes, and it kept reminding us as viewers going, there's a deeper story here. She said in the beginning there was going to be a deeper story, and she was authentic with that when she was talking with Walter.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I hate to say it, but, it's stuff that really can happen and really does happen in real life. There was actually I knew one of, God, it's so hard to say stuff without giving things away. But in my experience, I knew a family that had something like this happen. So it's pretty creepy. It's disgusting.
Well, like I said in the very beginning, there are so many different levels of this film, and I think that's what captures your imagination and why you just keep watching and watching, and you get deeper into it, and you feel like that you're right there on the set with you, experiencing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad you had that experience with it, because that's what I want.
Well, as the actor and the author, how do you get by this? I mean, this is something you can't easily drop, because I'm still thinking about it today.
Well, I've had 3 years of dealing with this and delving into it. So now it's just like, you grow numb to it. So I'm numb to the happenings and the things that went on.
Were you in the editing room with a yellow pad, just sitting there taking notes and making sure that the pacing was right?
Yes, but on my computer at home. It was nonstop going through with my notepad, down to the millisecond, cutting this out, adding that, putting this sound in that spot. This song has to go there. And it was a long process, but I love that part. I loved it all. I loved the post-production part of it.
Yeah. What about the sheriff? First of all, I thought his part in the movie was absolutely stunning, because it brought realism to Tess in the way of going, I used to live here. All right, let's rekindle a friendship.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I'm sure Texas would love to hear that as well. We loved Texas Battle. That's who played the sheriff. And he does bring a realness to it. He's just such a sweet guy. Mm-hmm. So definitely. Did
you get to do any market testing or any research in the way of watching people react to the movie? Because when Auntie comes over for dinner, man, I was screaming at that TV set at Tess and Walter. I'm going, no!
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, we did not.
Oh, man.
But one thing happened, and I hope I'm not spoiling this or not, but that I had not expected people were going to think is when she brings over the food,
Yeah.
that there might have been some
Yes. Yeah.
body
Yeah. Yeah.
part
Yeah. Yeah.
in the food, which I did not expect people to think that, and they did. And I was like, wow, that's so cool.
Well, even the drop of the substance of red on the conveyor belt, that to me put my imagination in a totally different playing field.
Yes. Yep. Yep. No, that's just grape jelly.
So are you going to continue this genre? I mean, you really need to jump into it.
This is like, I love horror. Like, like I told you, I'm demented since I was a kid, and I love this genre. However, that being said, I feel like there's so much right now, like darkness in the world,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
there's just everyone's like just so angry. I feel like that I'd love to, like, I'm working on 2 new projects, and one of them's a comedy. I feel like the next one needs to be lighter.
Okay.
Just because of that reason, just because of what's going on right now with everything. But I will for sure come back to this because it's probably my favorite genre. It's kind of funny because comedy and horror are my 2 favorite genres, which are some polar opposites. But I for sure will. But the next one's going to be a comedy.
You sound like Michael Keaton because he said the same thing about all the different movies that he's been in. He says, I don't want to get typecast. I want to be able to do everything I can in this moment of now. And if it means I go do this movie, I'm going to go do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's so funny because my son's name is Keaton.
Oh,
and I always say it's like Michael Keaton.
that is so brilliant. Where can people go to find out more about what you're doing? And are you doing books? Are you doing anything like that?
Well, doing books, like writing a book.
Writing, yeah. Because your story needs to be in there.
Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called Bounce, Don't Break, Brandy's Guide to Life, Love, and Success.
Oh.
But yeah, and if you could, people can follow me by my name, Brande Roderick. They can go to Wineville Movie, and just keep up with everything that's going on. Definitely.
Wow. Well, you've got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, well, thank you, Arrow. I appreciate it. I appreciate being on here. And yeah, if everyone could go watch Wineville, I would be grateful forever. So thank you.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I will. You too. Thank you.